evening and welcome to the Sound Off Show. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the program, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. I wanted to start off the show by just giving you a brief overview of the difference between a pure democracy and a constitutional republic, because we keep hearing in this country that we are a democracy, and indeed, to an extent, we are. But a pure democracy is when the people have a right to vote, and then whoever wins does whatever they want. The whims of the people who won the election prevail, okay? There's no legal system that the people can count on because it's a pure democracy. In a democratic constitutional republic, the people still have a right to vote, but when they elect people, whoever wins has to abide by the United States Constitution. That protects the people, the Bill of Rights and so forth. The people have individual rights in this country, and the people who are elected have well, I call it a guideline, but it's stronger than that, a format that they need to stand up for and respect on behalf of the people. So there's a big difference. We do vote, we are a democracy, but we have a constitutional republic. And I just want to make sure you understood that. Before I introduce my guest, which I'm going to do quickly, I want to introduce you to my little friend here. This is my friend Hero, and Hero sits in my living room in a little rocking chair, and he's going to sing for you one of my favorite songs, and I hope yours too. Here we go.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I worked
For all my life,
and I had to start again
with just my children and my wife.
I
Thank my lucky stars to be living here today.
'Cause the flag still stands for freedom,
and they can't take that away.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave their right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her till today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this
land.
God
Bless the USA. Thank you, Hero. He's my little buddy. I love him to pieces. He's the man in my life.
There you go.
Okay, now I would like to introduce my formal guest, who has been on before, Don Turner,
Hi.
Representative Don Turner.
Thank you very much, Linda, for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm happy to have you here.
Okay.
Don is running for the position of Lieutenant Governor, and I think he would be a phenomenal one. He's a born leader in so many ways. I want to ask you to tell us what you've been doing. You're a realtor.
Yeah.
You've been the fire chief in Milton.
Yes.
You're now the town manager in Milton.
Correct.
You have a family.
Yes. So I can tell you a lot, Linda. I really appreciate
Please.
you giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I've spent my life giving to the community. My wife Gail and I have been married for 33 years. We got 3 grown daughters. We're fortunate that they all still live in Vermont now.
Yes.
I'm a 4th generation Vermonter. I've spent my whole life giving back to the community, public service. I joined the fire department when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And I worked my way up from a rookie to being chief in 2004. Served as chief of rescue from 04 to 08, and then I was asked to take over the rescue department because we were struggling. So in 2008, I agreed to do that. Had 103 volunteers under me at that time.
Oh my goodness.
And I also was serving in the legislature at the time. So I've served in the Vermont House since 2006. I've been the minority Republican leader since 2011, and I've worked really hard. I've went to Montpelier to make a difference for my community, for my family, for my friends. I can look back at that tenure and say, I think I have had an impact in Vermont, have made an impact, met a lot of incredible people. I've learned an immense amount in my time in the legislature. But I got to the point a couple of years ago and I said, I don't want to be one of these legislators that's here forever. I want to, if I can't see a path to make a greater difference, then I need to take a step back. So I had really decided 2 years ago that this would be my last term in the House. But not until 6 weeks ago had I decided that I would go for the next step and run for lieutenant governor. So about 6 weeks ago, realizing that my time in the legislature was coming to an end, telling people that, and having people say to me, you have spent your entire life giving to the community, to our state. You've worked to this platform where you've got a voice and you speak to Vermonters and people trust you. So I listened to that and I talked to my wife and I said, what I'm going to do. I hear what they're saying. I'm not really sure I'm ready to be done. I know if I'm done, I'm going to be done. And what I don't want is 4 years, 6 years down the road to say, only if I would have done something different, only if I would have run for this office. So I started looking at it, and as you mentioned, about 16 months ago, I took over as town manager of the town of Milton, and in January stepped down as fire and rescue chief. I still serve on both departments.
Oh my goodness.
But I'm not as active as I once was when I was chief, but I'm managing the town. We have 70 employees. I've been doing that for a year and a half while I've still been the minority leader and serving in the legislature. So it's been busy. I'm very fortunate.
You think?
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate in that in my life I've had surrounded myself with people who are incredible support. My wife and my family, my parents, my siblings, and people that work with me. I just am so humbled by the amount of support that people give me. It allows me to do things like this.
You've earned it.
Well, that's what people say, but I'm part of a team, and I've always done that. The legislative team we had, I've said to our caucus year after year, I wouldn't want to be part of a different caucus. We have the best caucus, we just don't have the biggest. And in politics and in the legislature, that means you're in the minority and you're always fighting, playing defense. So, like I said, about 6 weeks ago, I decided, after talking to a number of people saying, you got to do this, don't give up, we need you. And I looked at it and I looked at the lieutenant governor's position because it was a part-time position. And I really do love managing the town of Milton. It's my home. As I said, I've been there for 4 generations. My family's been there. I know a lot of people have great support. And we're getting a lot of stuff done in Milton. And it kind of renewed my faith in government.
Good.
That you can do stuff in government. It doesn't have to be so regulated that nothing gets done and costs so much money. And at the local level, I'm proving that. We're proving that day after day after day.
It's about leadership and it's about teamwork.
Yes.
And it's about opening up to the public and
Yes.
being honest with them.
Yep.
But you are definitely a multitasker. I thought I was a multitasker, but you are a multitasker, and you've proven yourself in so many ways, Don.
Well, thank you, Linda. It means a lot, and I hear that a lot, and it's humbling to hear that because I just go about my business, and when opportunity appears in front of me, I don't want to, not take it. Or sometimes I've not accepted those challenges every time, but I've really been open to change. Change is good. We say it. It's not. You can say it, but you have to mean it. And
challenging yourself.
Challenging myself makes me better.
Absolutely.
Makes us better. So when this opportunity opened, I really did think very hard and long about it. It's not going to be easy to beat an incumbent, and my wife is again fully supportive here. My family's supportive. We've had an incredible kickoff event. We've raised a lot of money, and it's been very fulfilling for me to see people who have an immense amount of support writing checks to support a campaign that they believe in. So we have a lot of work to do. We're going to work really hard. I'm in it to win it. I don't like to lose.
No.
I don't build these teams and have support like I have to fail. But I do know, and everybody that's volunteering on my campaign understands, in Vermont, it's extremely hard to beat an incumbent. So we have a path to victory. We have identified a path. It's going to take a lot of work from myself and my team, and we're prepared. We're going to work hard to do that. So
Well, I have no doubt. I mean, you're the type of person who puts in the kind of effort, sees what needs to be done, and then tackles it.
exactly.
And that's what we need in leadership in the state of Vermont.
Well, I agree with you, Linda, and that's, when people ask me, why are you running? And, we talked a little bit about it earlier. I'm running because I believe in Vermont. I can't give up on Vermont. I can't foresee our current lieutenant governor being the next governor, the next congressman, or the next senator.
No.
So I had to do something. I felt I had to do something. I feel that I can bring my experience, what I've learned in my 13 years in the legislature, what I've learned in my 36 years in the fire service, what I learned as a dad and a husband. I've spent some time learning. And if I want to go to Montpelier in a capacity as the lieutenant governor and use that position to make Vermont a better place. And I think I can do it. I really do think I can do it.
I think you can too. And what's interesting, Don, is that when you go through your life and you assume and accept positions that are challenging, that require you to be innovative and a people person, to work with others and so forth, to face the challenges that come, that's all preparation for something bigger.
Yep.
Not that the things you've done haven't been big, because they definitely are, but another type of challenge.
I think you're absolutely right, Linda. And I think if you embrace those challenges and wake up every morning knowing that it's not going to be easy, that you need people to support you, you need to support them so they can support you.
Yeah.
They need to feel appreciated, because if they're not going to be there. And I have had that. I've been so fortunate to have people like that around me, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I hope that people will see when they go to the polls that just because I have a R behind my name, I'm a Republican, doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I have worked really hard. I have given a lot of time to helping my neighbors, whether it be the middle of the night for a fire call or, an ambulance call, whatever it is, we go and we help. It's not we're going to pick and choose. I'm not an ideological person. I'm a realist. I want to make it happen. I don't want to, have this big dream that this is what it's going to be like, because we all know that there's reality.
Absolutely.
There's reality that we can only do so much, that we will do, and I will do whatever I can to help my friends, my family, anybody that needs me. I've been on call for my community. I want to be on call for Vermont.
That's a great statement, and I know you mean it. And we couldn't do better than to have you elected as the lieutenant governor, maybe even governor someday.
Oh, thank you.
One step at a time.
One challenge at a time.
One challenge.
I'm very, Governor Scott is a friend of mine. We've worked very close over the years. I don't always agree with Governor Scott, but I don't think any of us always agree.
No.
I have a constituency in Milton that's much more conservative than he. We've had, in this biennium alone, there have been a number of times where I've gone, as the minority leader, gone against the governor. And I think it's important that Vermonters see that just because we're in the same party, just because we
doesn't mean
we're lockstep.
Right.
We represent our constituents. We are the people we are. I have to go home at night and live with my decision. And there were things that I just could not support.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, and I want your viewers to understand that I'm still friends with the governor. I was very upfront with him. I can't support this governor. Our caucus is not going to support this. He knew that going into it, and it wasn't adversarial, but there are occasions when you just disagree, and that's okay.
Right.
And I want people to understand that. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected lieutenant governor, I hope I'm part of his cabinet. I'm going to convey those same things.
Sure.
I'm not always going to agree, but I think it'll make him better. It'll make me better, because all of a sudden now you got two people that are saying, well, I don't know if this is great or not. Maybe we ought to take a different approach. So I think I can help the governor, but at the end of the day, he's the governor. We may not agree, but I still have an immense amount of respect, and he's my friend. So I'll do what I can to help him get elected.
Yeah, and it's about looking at whatever the situation is, and then trying to come up with a common sense, response and direction. You know what I feel about you, Don? I feel that you're trustworthy, and I feel that you're not going to be bought by any entity any more than I was when I served in the legislature.
Absolutely. I will never do that.
Me either. No. I made it perfectly clear from the get-go. If you'd like to donate to my campaign, that's wonderful, but let it be known.
Yep. I've had situations, in my tenure in the legislature, because I've, as the leader, had to go out and raise a lot of money to help candidates. And even in this election, I've had people say, well, I think you should do this. And I said, I don't need that investment that much to change who I am.
Right.
I'm not going to. I've worked my entire life to build my name and reputation and what it is.
Maybe you're not going to sell it now.
I'm not going to sell it now for a vote or for an investment in a campaign. So, I want people to invest in our campaign because we can't win if we can't be competitive in the fundraising side. But I'm not going to change.
You're not going to sell your vote.
No, because I'm going to live beyond this election.
Absolutely.
I'm going to live beyond my tenure.
And live with yourself.
Exactly. And I've worked too hard. I was a realtor. Realtors work hard, but sometimes they get caught up in it's about the money. My philosophy was always take care of the people will take care of you.
Yeah.
And, if you took care of that client, you always got paid. If you started worrying about the commission before you got the deal done, it never worked out well.
That's sort of backwards.
That's backwards. And in government, it can be the same way. If you start worrying about what people want you to think about for them and not think about the greater good of all, it's not going to work.
I agree.
And one thing if I can just jump back a little bit.
Sure.
When I was the minority leader, when we had single party rule, I was the leader under a governor who I had zero things in common.
Was that Dean?
No, Governor Shulman.
Yeah.
We did not see eye to eye on really anything that I can remember.
I can agree.
Any issues,
Understand.
So I have a perspective today where we have a friend of mine who is the governor, who I agree with maybe 70% of the time. That is far better than zero. Yeah. And he has done what he said in keeping the cost of living down. He has fought tax increases and fee increases, and we passed a budget with no tax or fee increases last biennium.
Income taxes went up, though.
Not this year, not last year. The federal tax cut actually would have been an upgrade in revenue to Vermont, but the governor made changes, so that didn't happen either. We passed a budget in FY18, which was the first year of this biennium. There were no tax increases, no fee increases at all. So I'm positive about that.
Okay.
Yep. So 70% in my book is always better than zero. To agree with the governor.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
And I have a good friend that I went to nursing school with, and actually we can't even talk politics because we don't agree on much of anything.
Yep.
And that happens too.
It does.
Yep. But we have to.
People in our caucus the same way. I'm managing a caucus that's very diverse. We got some real liberal-leaning, not liberal, but more moderate conservative, to real ultra-conservative, and everywhere in the middle. And I was on the moderate side. I was always on the moderate side, but found a way to
I'm over here.
Yeah, but we can get along, and our caucus members had the same amount of respect for me as the other side, because what we decided was there are issues we're never going to agree on. But if we talk about money, that's where we all agree. We all could come together when it came to fiscal issues. And that's how I was able to bring the caucus together. And if I'm elected lieutenant governor, I'm going to use those same kind of principles, the same kind of approach to bring everybody, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, probably not too many probably not too many progressives will come in there, but that office would be open to everyone, and I would be always looking for a way to get people to come together and focus on the things we can agree with, and the rest you got to do what you got to do.
It's true, absolutely true. So what do you think, Dawn, most Vermonters are concerned about and want a resolution for?
What I've heard for the last 4 election cycles is, the jobs and economy are very, very important to people. People with kids are concerned, what are their kids going to do when they graduate college? Are they going to be able to stay here or not? So jobs and economy, they really are top issues. But taxes, that's what I always heard every time we campaigned. And as I said, as a leader, I would drive around the state working with different candidates all around the state. And it was a very common theme. People say, this is not the Vermont that I've known.
Absolutely.
I can't afford to live here. I can't afford to live the lifestyle I'm used to living here because it costs too much. What are you going to do about it? And we tried, and I'm proud to say, if you look at my voting record, I've done everything I can. I voted no on hundreds of millions of new taxes, and fee increases, and this regulatory issue that was going to cost people more to live. So I can stand proud on my record when it comes to that.
Property taxes are a problem.
Yes.
And they seem to keep climbing up. I did some homework on that, but I don't know if I brought it with me. About the cost of education in this state, and nobody seems to want to address it. But when you look at the cost, and I'm going to dig that out of here, compared to the national average.
Yep. I think we're number 2 in the country, maybe.
Oh yeah, and we're almost double the average per pupil cost.
That's a very concerning number.
Yes.
And what's even more concerning about it, from my perspective, is the outcomes the students are getting.
Oh.
We are the second, or it depends on how you look at it, but we're very high on the cost per pupil. But our student performance, student outcomes, is not there.
I know.
It's down in the middle to lower part of the pack. So why are we in Vermont continuing to spend as much as we are and getting less, and the students are doing worse than they did before? And our student population has declined by
Big
30%.
time.
So we are sitting in a position in this state where the students are doing worse, the parents paying the taxes are doing worse. What's going on here? We have to get into that. And I think a lot of it goes into the size of our schools, how many schools we have, what we're offering, all that stuff.
We might have a little disagreement on
fine.
that, because I'm not a fan of bringing the schools together. I like having your own town school where people feel comfortable going in and just take the pride in their community and how well their particular school is doing, not losing that sense of identity for your community.
I totally agree with you that the school in every community is the heart and soul. I think every person, every parent, any student that's gone to school will agree with that. My concern is, Linda, is that when we have schools that have 6 kids total, we have schools that have 9 kids.
Come on.
I'm serious. There are schools in this state that have that few students. Those students, what kind of experience are those students getting in those schools?
Well, you know what? My husband, David, went to school in St. Johnsbury. And there were 12 graduates in his high school class, 6 girls and 6 boys, and they all did well in life.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. To me, the most important factor in education is a wonderful teacher. And when you get all kinds of controls in place and extra expenditures and children of different learning abilities in the same classroom, that to me doesn't work. And we're not going to solve that here.
No, we're not. And there's so many unfunded mandates that come from Washington, that come from up here, that these schools are just burdened with. Today's school looks so much different than the school when we went to school, because of the, the social services that are now performed in schools. that were never there before.
They need to be done outside the school.
The expectations of what those schools will do for the families, for everybody.
That's not the school's job.
I don't disagree, but that's what's happening.
I know.
It's happening in there, and that's what's driving these costs.
Absolutely.
So, I don't want, some people accuse me of being anti-teacher. I'm not anti-teacher.
Oh, me either.
I fully support teachers.
Me too.
Teachers are have some of the most important jobs in the country, in our communities. But we have to look at this as a global issue. It's not going to be resolved in one little town in Vermont or one little town in New York. We've got to take Vermont and look at what are we going to do for Vermont kids now that give them a potential for a great future, and their parents can afford to pay the bills. Because if we can't do one or the other, we're failing.
Focus on what education is to be about. High expectations of the students, which I think are lacking today.
Yep.
The children need something to reach for. When your grading system is 1 through 5, instead of 0 to 100, if you have 50 questions on the test like we did when I was in school, you knew that each one was worth 2 points.
Right.
And your parents and you knew how you were doing. Right. Today, I don't think that the families know even how the students are doing, and the way to compare things is lost.
Right.
We just need to, why don't we create our own education system, get out of Common Core, which I've been in touch with the education department, and it was in 2011 or 2012 that Vermont Department of State Board of Education signed on to Common Core, and I really think it's the wrong way to go.
I don't have a lot of, I haven't tried to micromanage schools.
Yeah.
I just, in the legislature, you're always looking at it from a very different perspective. What can we do? How can we make it better? But again, I would love and will work with the governor to try to put together a process where we can get better student outcomes and contain costs where people can afford to pay their taxes.
And get their money's worth.
Absolutely.
And feel a sense of comfort that the children who are in the education system will come out of school with the skills and the knowledge base to move on to another level of education or get themselves employed somewhere. I have spoken, Don, with a number of business leaders, and I'm sure you know this, who cannot find qualified people or reliable people to work for them, and they don't know what to do. They're at a loss. Their business is struggling.
I think there's a lot of
moving
issues,
parts
that are driving this. But that's why I'm open to a lot of different ideas. We talk about schools that may specialize in this and other schools that do that. School choice. I'm open to school choice. I think that school choice offers a unique opportunity for many kids, and we've seen proof that kids that did not do well in one school who were allowed to go to a different school excelled.
Exactly.
We've seen that. That's been proven.
Like Montgomery has wonderful outcomes.
Exactly. So
a small school.
There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of factors, but I will continue to do what I can to try to get better student outcomes and address the cost of education going forward.
We have a caller.
We do. Good.
Caller, welcome to the program. What's on your mind tonight? We can't hear you.
Well, I just barely heard you, Linda.
Oh, you did? Well, I'm not afraid to express myself.
Who's that great-looking man you got with you?
Oh, Don Turner, my friend.
Town manager from Milton.
Yes.
That is right. That's Jim Fitzgerald.
I know who. I recognize his voice.
Oh, how could we miss?
I worked with him when he was the town manager in Milton. So,
okay.
I'm kind of following in his footsteps here.
There you go.
Yes.
So what's on your mind, Jim?
Not very much other than to say we've got an outstanding candidate for the lieutenant governor's position, and I hope that the people of this state reward Don for all his hard work in the past in the legislature and who knows what he achieved for us that we haven't even heard about. I know he's been an awful good man, and our family is certainly going to support him.
Attaboy.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. I really appreciate it.
And I agree with you 100%. We couldn't have a better candidate for lieutenant governor. And you viewers out there need to support Don Turner. And I think you'll be happy you did. I'm sure you will be.
Question about it.
Thank you, Jim.
Don, are you getting around? The governor was here all day today.
Yeah,
half the day.
Yeah, he was here this afternoon. I had some previous commitments that I couldn't make it. I got called this morning and invited this morning, and I would have loved to have done that. But like Vermonters, I have a couple jobs, and I had to finish. I had to work, so I wasn't able to come up with the governor today. But I was in Franklin.
You have to earn a living in this state.
Yeah, I know. That's absolutely right. So that's another perspective that people, I want people to understand. I do have to work, and I do work, and I want to make sure that they understand I'm going to continue working. It was a great opportunity to see you on Sunday, Jim, at the parade, the VSFA parade, and we had a good turnout there, so we had some good people.
Good.
So thank you, Jim, very much.
Good luck to you, Don.
Thank you very much.
And to you too, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Hey, Jim, did you know this? This is a report by the UVM Education and Social Services Department, I guess. The number of individual education plans qualifying for extraordinary cost reimbursement from 2009 to 2017. In 2009, there were 227 students on IEPs and the additional cost students that qualified. In 2017, you ready for this? From 227 to 564, a 75% increase in students qualifying for extraordinary cost reimbursement over a 4-year period. And at the same time, we lost students in the state.
I think some of the factor, we haven't touched on this opiate issue that's going on across the country, but it definitely is affecting our state. And we're seeing a lot of the kids going into schools that are just not prepared for school.
Absolutely.
And that they don't have a family support system. And this drug issue is definitely
huge.
Driving this. It's racking up those numbers for sure. And, we have to address that. That's an issue that needs to be focused on as well.
Yes.
Needs to be addressed, Don.
Yep, I agree.
I have a daughter that's an assistant judge in Franklin County here. And she never tells me anything going on in the court, never repeats anything, because she can't. Yeah. But I can see that she's troubled by the types of cases that come into that court every day of the week.
Yes.
Yep. It is. It's very concerning, very scary, actually.
And Jim, one of the things that bothers me a lot about the court system is that when you look at the newspaper and the recording of all of the police records of infractions, most of these people are released with a slap on the hand. Now, maybe we don't have facilities to have them incarcerated in if that is appropriate, but it just seems to me that, maybe they get a little fine and then they're on their way. And if you don't have consequences for actions, the actions don't change. Period.
That's true.
Absolutely true. Absolutely.
Donnie supports that position. I know he does.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. One of the things I do, being on as the rescue chief, was a real education on the people being affected by this opiate crisis.
It's terrible.
And I feel, I know people, are upset that, we're trying to come up with creative, intuitive ways to help these people. This is a disease. Once they've become addicted, it's really nothing. It's hard for them to control. They can't control it. So it's like any other illness at that point, and we've got to find a way to prevent them from getting to that point. And that's one of the things that education and early intervention is something that's really got to change and be focused on.
How about solid families?
And that's a
How
big deal.
about parents modeling positive behaviors for their children
Right.
with high expectations and work ethic and respect, personal responsibility, all of these things that help you to advance in life, no matter what stage you're at.
Right, and that's true, Linda, but I know many families that are those families, and they have addicted children. Children that have become addicted on these opioids. And
Because
that's
of the associations they have?
No, it's one time you go in for a medical procedure and all of a sudden you're hooked on these drugs.
Well, that happens.
But there
They're
are examples.
curtailing that
Yeah, there's
now.
a lot of examples of where, these people that are affected by this illness have those principal core family support that we talk
I'm
about.
sure there are cases.
So are there cases like that, and then there are cases that there's no support. But I think we have to recognize that this is a serious issue, and it's not there's no easy fix, and the ramification or the implications of this illness leads to crime, death, tragedy, all these things.
absolutely.
We can talk about people that have died recently as a result of this, that had strong families, had strong support systems, have
I'm
children
sure
of
there
their
are
own.
those,
You know,
yeah.
so I don't, I want to make sure if your viewers are out there that I want to work to figure out how we start getting the prevention in place before we get to that part. Because we can't, once you get to this point, it's hard to say. It's
Just
hard to
don't
recover.
make it one more program in the schools.
No, I agree. No, totally agree.
Well, it's very apparent to me, Don, that you've given this a lot of thought. You know where you're headed.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you all the best, and I'll allow somebody else to call in, Linda.
Okay.
Good work down there now, Don.
Thank you very much, Jim.
I hope you're down there with him.
Well, I'd like to be. I'd love to serve with Don again. I've done it in the past.
Yep.
He was a good partner down there with me.
We did. We served
All
well
right,
together.
well, let's make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Dawn, since you brought up the drug issue, I'm just very, very unhappy about this marijuana business. I think it's opening the door for young people, and now they're gifting it.
Well, yes. We expected that. I mean, our caucus members opposed this, very, very diligently for a number of years. I mean, we would have had recreational marijuana a couple of years ago if it hadn't been for the work of our caucus. Fighting it, sustaining.
The Republicans were against it.
The Republicans were against legalization for recreation, and we did everything we could. And then this biennium, the writing was on the wall. The governor said he was going to support it. There's one of these places where I disagreed. Our caucus opposed it, but we understood full well it was going to become legal.
Whatever happened to when the governor said he would not support it unless there were a way on the street to assess, how would you put that? Just like you can with alcohol,
Right.
You can give them a breathalyzer test,
Right.
but there's no way to test for marijuana.
It's not the science really isn't quite there yet. We had many, many people talk about that, and we had a lot of information presented to the legislature about it. And the THC, the drug in marijuana, stays in your system much longer.
Oh, a couple of weeks or more.
30 days,
Yeah,
can be 30
yeah.
days. So it's a really, it was a tough fight, and we're disappointed that we are where we're at. I was happy to hear yesterday that the Attorney General came out and said this gifting has got to stop, that's illegal. So I'm happy about that.
So I wonder what they're going to do about it. Okay, if it's illegal and you get caught doing it, what are your consequences going to be?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. They haven't really prosecuted anybody for small amounts of marijuana in years.
We have another caller. You're a
Good.
popular guy.
Oh, good.
Caller, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, what's on my mind, Linda? You ought to take sound off on and put on a Republican show.
Oh, stop it. I've told you before, you've been on this program.
Yeah, you let me just so that you can please some of the Democrats.
Oh, is that it? Oh, so what's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Well, this medical marijuana, I think it's good for people that are have terminal illness and stuff like that. But I think this marijuana is going to lead it to more of future drugs. They'll test this and they don't want to try heroin and the other stuff that is out there.
I agree
But
with.
does Mr. Turner support taking and taxing that so that way we spend that money because the state of Vermont seems to take in want more money all the time, and people are moving out of Vermont.
So I've opposed legalizing recreational marijuana for many years. Once I realized the governor was going to sign it, then I realized that we should be proactive and not just let it become law with no resource, no revenue. I'm still, so I put forth an amendment that would tax and regulate the marijuana for recreational use. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. And again, it's a real issue that we have to deal with, in that what are we going to do? Because we haven't prosecuted anybody with small amounts for years anyway. I feel if it's going to be legal, then there ought to be resources to pay for public safety, public health, and public education. Because as you said, these are going to lead to further drug addictions down the road, in my opinion. The doctors, you can have physicians speak on both sides of that. We had experts all the time in the State House said that it's not a drug that's going to lead you to a future drug. I don't agree with that. I've seen cases where that is happen. But the answer to your question is I did support tax and regulate marijuana. I do not support full retail sale of marijuana. I don't want to see marijuana be as accessible as alcohol or cigarettes or anything like that in all our stores.
Yeah, I got a question for your third guest there, sitting in front of Linda. How come he doesn't talk?
He just sings. He sings.
He sings, and he's my buddy.
Take it easy. Thanks for coming on the show, Mr. Turner.
Thank you very much. I hope I can count on your support.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah, and he was very instrumental. He was the director of the board here.
Oh, nice.
And worked very, very hard to make this facility happen.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful facility.
It is. It's wonderful. Let me see here. Anything about healthcare that you want to bring up?
We are struggling, and I think you see, with the nurses' strike in Burlington, and this whole essentially monopolizing of our healthcare system is very concerning to me. As a Vermonter.
Hospitals, you mean?
Hospitals.
I agree 100%.
The hospital, the major hospital in Vermont, UVM, has bought up a lot of the doctors' offices. They're controlling They're controlling most of, our healthcare. Doctors are leaving the state.
They're retiring, or they're moving out, they're going to work for a hospital.
Yeah, and the cost isn't going down.
No.
So we're not seeing any real.
And our choices are going away.
Choices are going away. Cost is still rising. So that's a concern to me.
It's not freedom anymore.
It's a challenge. Very, very challenging for someone who wants to get a second opinion to go and get a second opinion unless you leave the state.
Private enterprise.
Yep. So I have a concern in that we're having this regionalization of our medical and delivery. We have One Care Vermont, who is essentially controlling mostly all the healthcare in Vermont. Mm-hmm. So that's very concerning to me. We have some great physicians coming in, but the lack of new there are very few specialized physicians, So those are all things that I think the state really has to look at and continue to monitor. We do incent new doctors, young doctors, to come to Vermont in certain ways. So we're going to have to do more of that.
I agree 100%.
And one last thing I want to say in healthcare, I hope that the hospitals stay out of the other things that they're trying to do. UVM spent $15 million last year on housing for people in the greater Burlington area.
What?
Yeah, they had a surplus in their budget, so they worked out a deal with the Green Mountain Care Board and the state to spend that money in conjunction with Champlain Housing Trust for housing. I think, why wouldn't that go back to the people for lower health insurance premiums?
Exactly.
Or in this case, pay their nurses more money. That's my opinion.
Yeah, when I worked as a nurse at the medical center years ago, the nurses were not unionized, and that would be fine with me.
Yeah.
I wanted to earn my individual wage
Yep.
and not have that depend on some other entity just deciding.
Well, I support collective bargaining. I have not, nor will I ever get into, picking a side. But I'm just thinking if for some reason the hospital ended up with way more money than they needed to operate, why wouldn't they look at their staffing and cost and so on versus delving into other areas of our society?
Well, what was I going to ask you? It was about the Green Mountain Care Board and what did I bring up before the show? Something that they're controlling. I'll think of it.
Okay.
We'll move on to something else. Let me see. We have wages.
Yep. Minimum wage. I did not support the minimum $15 hour minimum wage.
I wouldn't either.
Nope. I worked.
I hate to interrupt you.
That's okay.
We have another caller.
Okay. Good.
Caller, welcome to the show.
Yes. Good evening, Linda.
Hi.
My name is Nicole. I'm a retired nurse. I've been in the field for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the hold for the nurses in St. Albans and also walk with them.
Can we turn the volume up a
I'm
little?
from another state. And I finally got to read their contracts, and the nurses are not, by any chance, walking or doing all of the efforts they're doing to try to render the correct amount of nurses that needs to be in Burlington. The contract is absolutely, I can't believe the difference in between the steps. It's very, very little, not enough by any chance. And they're way, way lower than the average nurse gets paid in Massachusetts, in New Hampshire, in Canada. It's a shame. It's a shame. The hospital is the biggest hospital of Vermont. Why can't they pay their nurses? It's an important profession that needs to be kept in the same position than another state to continue the competition. I don't understand where they are in their contract. How come a contract like that has been going on and they have a hard time, the hospital has a hard time to concede to help these nurses? I don't understand it. It's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would definitely concur with you that nurses are very valuable, not because I was one myself, but because I'm aware of the hard work that and the insight that nurses have that pick up on things about patients that are important that they can share with the physician, and they're right on the front. Nurses are right on the front line of care, and a real asset to the physicians actually, and to the patients. So I agree with you that they should be adequately paid. What I personally don't agree with is that everybody gets paid the same thing. I kind of like negotiating for myself, but I never was in a union, and I guess that's a good thing.
Linda, what do you mean that everybody gets the same thing? I don't understand what you mean by that.
Well, if you're an RN, do you all get the same pay?
No, Linda.
There's
steps, okay?
Yeah, okay.
And when you're first hired, your degree of knowledge and experience gets met with steps. If you are a nurse from another city that has been working for years in ICU, you'll be recognized as such. I am not sure what steps they go in. My big to-do up to now is in between the steps. Let's say that there's 17 steps.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay? The hospital talks about the large amount of money in between the steps. There is not a large amount of money.
Okay.
And at the end of these steps, when you've been working there for maybe 20, 25 years, you have nowhere to go but cost of living. That's not enough.
Right.
Okay, let's hear from our candidate here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for calling. Thank you for calling and raising that point, Nicole.
Okay.
I want to say that my oldest daughter is an RN. She works at the medical center. She's she's on the neurology OR team. So she works hard. She does a really good job, and I fully support her and what her profession does. I support all nurses. But what I wanted to say is I also am a firm believer in collective bargaining. So I believe that the parties have to get together and work this out, and it shouldn't be a politician like myself or anyone else who's trying to interject into that or take advantage of that situation. So that's that's the comment I was trying to make earlier, is that I fully support the nurses, and I fully support collective bargaining and people's right to do what they have to do to protect themselves and their wages, and management to do what they have to do. But I do not think it's an appropriate place for a politician to interject or to try to take advantage of the situation to get exposure. And that's what I was alluding to earlier.
Okay. All right. Well, definitely. I want to thank you so much for your encouragement, because they need all what they can.
I totally agree.
They have worked so many years without recognition.
God bless the RN.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for.
I have a sign in my lawn. I agree, Linda. Take good care of yourself.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night. One other thing, Dawn, the family leave.
Yes.
The paid family leave.
Yep.
As I understand it, all employees would have a tax.
Yeah. So this has been in the works for a number of years in Vermont, paid family leave. And I want to go on the record. I fully support paid family leave. I think people have to be able to leave their work to help their family, take care of their families. In the world we live in and the cost it is to live here in Vermont, we have to be able to have employees leave to do that. But I don't agree with my friends in the Democrats who say everybody should pay. I think it should be a voluntary system. You know, there in California and in New Hampshire, there are voluntary systems that are in place where people can pay in if they feel they need that benefit and get that benefit. Now, there are a number of employers that offer short-term disability and long-term disability. So why should those employees who have those programs have to pay twice? Or why would employers have to pay twice if they're already offering this program? So that's why I think it's absolutely essential that whatever we do for paid family leave, as I said, I support, but it has to be a voluntary system. It can't be what was driven through the legislature this year. There would have been a $16.3 million tax on hardworking Vermonters. So on one hand, you have the majority fighting for to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and on the other hand, they want to take some of it back to pay for another social program. I couldn't support it. I don't support it, but I do support paid family leave.
Well, and you know, if you're in a situation, you can't always foresee that you're going to have the need.
Exactly.
Where you're going to have to leave your work for a certain period of time. But on the other hand, if you're planning to have a family, why not, while you're working, take a certain amount of dollars and put them aside in a separate account, like I did to pay my mortgage. Every week when I got my paycheck, I put a certain amount in an account. And then when it was time to pay the mortgage, the money was there.
So I think the problem that we face today, and we've talked about it a number of times on the show already, is what it costs to live here. People are struggling to make the monthly payments.
Amen.
Many people live week to week, month to month. There is no capacity to put that money away. So what I think is we have to come up with something that will work, but in my opinion, it's got to be something that people voluntarily enroll in and not be mandated, forcing another tax on all the rest of us.
Yeah, because primarily, well, for a lot of reasons, but primarily because it already costs so much
Exactly.
to live here, and it's just taking one, more set of dollars out of your paycheck.
That's right.
So I understand that. We're down to the last 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any particular things that you want to share with the viewers
Mm-hmm.
that we haven't already discussed.
Okay, well, I'd just like to talk about what it's going to take, why it's so important for me to be elected lieutenant governor. We have a state that we've just talked about all these issues, and we have a current lieutenant governor who's a nice guy, but has a vision of taking away more people's money and spreading it out and using it and raising taxes. I believe that Vermont needs to take a different turn. I believe that I need to support the work of Governor Scott.
Speak up.
Support the work of Governor Scott, not raise taxes and fees, make state government start living within its means, not raising taxes every time you turn around, and start to show predictability to business and the economy. Because if we can start to show businesses that Vermont is a predictable place to do business, we can open the door, we can start to address this job problem that we have, we can start to address the loss of the 25 to 45-year-old Vermonters. These are all things that are driven by the unpredictability in tax increases, in regulatory process, regulatory authority. We have to bring some stability there. And it's going to take a governor and myself working together to do that.
I agree there. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the thing that I forgot before was the certificate of need.
Yes.
And I don't think that the Green Mountain Care Board should be playing God with the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to come in and start a new clinic, a private clinic,
Mm-hmm.
they shouldn't be penalized. They'll be offering a service to the people of Vermont, and an option. And I think that's a good thing, and the Green Mountain Care Board, I think, should stay out of it.
Well, we talked about, do we even need the Green Mountain Care Board anymore? I mean, it's grown to a $12 to $15 million board operation.
Oh my God, they get paid?
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah, and there are 5 appointed people.
Yes. So it's a very expensive operation, and do we really need them?
We have better uses for that money.
We would have better uses, but it all goes back to this whole cost of living, and we've got to start right-sizing state government, and
Absolutely.
that's what's going to happen. So I'll do my best. I hope that I can count on your support. I'm going to be traveling around the state. I'm going to meet a lot of great people.
Yes, you are.
I will work really hard, like I've done in the years.
Yes, you will.
I'm committed to Vermont. I'm committed to doing what I need to do to win. And I'm just going to I'm on call for Vermont, and I'm going to continue to work hard.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.
I know that we're down to the last minute, Don. I know that you will be, not would be, you will be a wonderful Lieutenant Governor for the state of Vermont, for the people of Vermont. And we don't agree 100% on everything, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The core issues are what matter. And right-sizing the size of the state, I think, is top drawer. And it's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
But all good things deserve a battle, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you, my friend,
Thank you
for
very much,
coming
Linda.
on.
I appreciate it.
Best of luck.
Thank
Let
you
me
very
know
much.
if I can help.
I will be reaching out.
Okay.
It's going to take a team to win. and
Absolutely.
you need to be part of it. So thank you.
Teamwork. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you'll support Don Turner for Lieutenant Governor. You can't go wrong, and Vermont will go right with Don as our Lieutenant Governor. So with that, good night. Have a great week, and I have another super candidate next. Well, I don't know if it's a candidate. I'll have to refresh my memory. I have a long list of guests. But anyway, a great guest next week. Good Good night.